Welcome to another episode of Queen 3 and King. How you doing today?
Oh, good.
I'm the king. You're gonna see some strange shots today. When you're looking at Mika B. She is in holding at Loose Sterrett right
now. Waiting to get booked.
I'm waiting on them to come get me, y'all.
But this is the cell phone she had in her underdrawers.
That Metro PCS.
This burner phone she had.
Oh my God.
Yes, welcome to another episode of Queen 3 and King. Today's episode, Married and Lonely. Should there be a question out there? Don't know. We'll find out. As always, we come to you with love, peace, and nobility. Again, we do not shout out our AV squad, Kiki and Kidak Productions and Chico and GoldenEye Creations enough. We appreciate you still getting much love for the intros and the videos and the music and whatnot. So we appreciate you. Now, before we get into a couple of the comments in the comment section, we will introduce our co-host. And starting with the seasoned queen out of Anna, Texas, by way of East Garland. Standing at 5'3¼ tall. Skinny Minnie, Boney Maroney. Darling Nikki, Coco, the grandma herself. What up, Queen?
Hey, family.
Hey.
Wow. How y'all doing?
Hey, good evening.
Wow.
Good evening.
Wow. I see she's got the what do they call it? The bonnet wig. What they call it?
Oh, I know you lying.
I know you going. No.
I know you lying.
I seen somebody at church on Sunday with a bonnet on. This ain't no bonnet. I promise I did.
Said a bonnet wig.
Headband wig.
The bonnet wig is my favorite thing.
I know you lying.
And now, the controversial Queen of Tulsa, Miss Tulsa.
Not controversial.
It is controversial. It is in dispute now. Standing at 5'3" tall, the educator, Meba. What up, Queen?
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, it is controversial.
She may not be with us the whole show. I'm still praying on it, so we'll see.
Haters gonna hate, and ballers gonna ball, and rollers gonna roll.
Okay, quiet.
Oh my God.
And last but not least, standing at 5'2¼ tall, she shrunk since last week. This is Blake's mama, Miss Vows. What up, Queen?
I was going to say, what's that long pause?
I'm like Sean Rabb, Fox 4.
Hey, y'all. I bet y'all missed me, didn't you? I know I was missed last week, wasn't I?
Oh, we had forgot all about the fact that you weren't there last week.
Okay.
Girl, where you go?
That's cool. That's cool.
We got a couple of folks in the chat room already. We got Marita, hi family, what's going on?
Hey, Marita.
Miss Coleman, hello family. Hey, Carolyn.
Hey.
We got Sister Trailer. Good evening, family.
Hey.
Look like she got some makeup on in this profile picture over here. I wonder.
She had that last week.
I wonder if Sephora did that. She must have had
not Sephora.
Keisha Witherspoon, hey family.
Hey, Keisha.
Craig Young.
Hey, cousin.
Hey fam, how's it been? He's in all caps. I don't know why he's yelling at us right now.
Because he ain't seen us in a minute. I ain't seen his name come up in a minute.
Well, if he would come to his invites, he'd be there.
Yeah.
You would have seen him.
Oh, yeah. He didn't come to the cousin thing.
Whatever that is.
Hey, Rita.
Rita, hey, family.
Hey.
Hey, Trap with the End of the Bench podcast. Now at 6 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we got Tracy. Yes, you were, Lily.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
All right.
Always somebody looking out for me.
Let's dig into this topic. This probably, I want to say this has probably garnered the most comments, pre-show comments on Facebook than any topic that we've had. We've had some barn burn. So, married and lonely. So, I'll start with the seasoned queen and ask her the first question. Can you be lonely and married? Go.
Absolutely. You can be.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
You can. And there are reasons. When I say this because there are reasons that you can be lonely and married,
Okay.
whether it's the husband or whether it's the wife. So when I was thinking about this, sometimes it's mainly the emotional disconnect that's there. And that's very important in a marriage. Not saying that the physical aspect of it isn't, but the emotional part that's of connecting with one another, you have to have that in a marriage. And marriage takes work. It's hard work. So you got to make sure that we are taking care of our business. But yes, it is definitely, you can definitely be married and lonely.
Mm-hmm. All right. The educate us.
Yes, you can be married and lonely. And like Nikki said, it can be emotionally, it can be sexually,
Right.
it can be physically. Yeah. Go on it. Go on it.
I
Ooh.
wish John was on this show.
I don't. I don't.
It can be when you missing that booty.
Yes, it can be.
And be still over there.
She got ants in her
I'm
pants.
still.
Right now, the camera ain't
And I need to
jumping.
dance.
She must be nervous.
Oh, I don't know why it's not jumping. that tickled me, Alicia.
What
I'm
Mama
sorry.
would say, she probably been drinking that darn wine.
Yeah, that's what she would say. But yes, you can be you can be lonely in many ways in marriage.
Right.
And I think the more ways you're lonely, the worse it is.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, Lily, talk to her.
I absolutely agree. You can be married and lonely. Why? I'm glad you asked. Because it can be one of those things where you're lacking, like my sisters have both said, you lack communication. You may lack something sexually. It may even be a period of growth for your spouse. Like either you and your spouse may be going through a period where you're growing. And sometimes when you're growing and the other person is staying stagnant, that can be a lonely place.
Right.
So it can go a number of ways. So you can definitely be lonely and married.
All right, that's a good point. And I wasn't necessarily going to answer this question because I thought the answer was pretty obvious, right? However, one of the I'm looking at Mika again. The show has already started. The time for fixing your hair and stuff like that has passed.
Put in the green room.
I didn't do that. I think she did that to herself.
Put in the green room.
Around and
Why would you put me out?
I didn't put you out. That your phone must have did that. Okay. But anyway, I wasn't going to answer this question, but what I like about this show is that oftentimes the answers spark something in my answer, right? Mm-hmm. Or gives me a different direction that I want to go. Mm-hmm. And so when Lily was talking, what I got was isolation from a spiritual standpoint, right? So she talked about growth. Yeah. And the number one growth for me is spiritual growth, right? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we hear about isolation during spiritual growth, right? We've heard it throughout the entirety of the Bible. We hear about it frequently in the lives of our loved one, our own personal lives, right? Sometimes you're isolated when you're growing spiritually. Mm-hmm. And when you're isolated, sometimes that may mean you're more quiet than you typically are.
Exactly.
Right? And so as a result, your partner may feel left out or, something's going on. What's wrong? And you can't even explain what's wrong, right? Because the Lord is talking to you. You're dealing with some spiritual that you can't even put your fingers on just yet, because you're being poured into. So I think isolation spiritually can be a factor in that. And again, as we've answered the question and everybody kind of figured, you can be lonely in a marriage, right? Mm-hmm. Now the question is, what does it mean to be lonely in a marriage, right? So we've touched on that a little bit. Lily, we'll start with you. Give us some specifics. What does it mean to be lonely in a marriage from your perspective?
I think it can be a that lack of communication, the lack of effort. You may feel like you're putting more than that other person is putting in, and or vice versa. So it could be something that you're trying to work through. You feel like you're pouring your all, but you're not getting enough back, and that can lead to disappointment and that loneliness. But it's also one of those things: are you communicating what you need? Or have you made that something that you've talked about? Because I can't look for my spouse to just read my mind and know exactly how I'm feeling. I have to express those things. And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to voice those things that you feel like you need, because often as women, we feel like I shouldn't have to say it. Right? Or just as people, I shouldn't have to say this, but here I go saying it, right?
And sometimes as women we shut down.
Exactly. And that's something that I fight with all the time. Still learning. Still learning. I shouldn't have to say it, so I'm not going to say it, and I will immediately shut down. But that's something you have to keep open, that line of communication open. That's super important to kind of fight against that loneliness and that miscommunication.
Right. Great points. I'm going to get some comments and then we'll get to you, Mika, on that and say, what does it mean to be lonely in a marriage? But what's ironic to me before I get to these comments is that how frequently, when talking about relationships, whether they be marriages or otherwise, how often reading, I can't read your mind, that statement comes up. It's like we got to pay more attention to that on both sides, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
That comes up so frequently, but at the same time, it's almost as if we're not giving enough credence to it when it comes to putting in the work that we need to put in to be able to improve things, right? So we'll go to Selena, the producer of and the best part of Man Talk Mondays. That's right, I said it. Derek and John, what you gonna do about it? He says absolutely. If there's no emotional availability nor communication on a mutual frequency, loneliness can occur. And when she said mutual frequency, she is on something there. That is big, right?
Yes.
The old folks might have called it being on the same page, but y'all like to talk about vibing so much. Now this mutual frequency is all in your face. What you gonna do with it? Golden, she says, family.
Hey, family.
Hey, Golden, how you doing, ma'am? Rucker Park in the house.
Hey, Golden.
Hey, and then we got, end of the bench is just speaking to everybody. Ben Suttereth III says, hey, family. He put the DS in DS3 radio. And Golden says, right. She was probably talking about me. There are no mind readers. I guess she wasn't. She was talking about Leela.
Get your mind right.
And Rita says, having to go everywhere by yourself. He doesn't like to spend time with you, just like being single. Let's just say within the last 7 days, I done heard that from somebody. So you are 100% right.
That's right.
Amy of Raising a YBK.
Hey,
Amy.
What's going on, Amy? We got Mayhem, David Wilkes.
Hello.
Howdy, David.
Howdy.
One of my co-hosts from the Forecast. What's up, my man? We got Al High in the building. Pastor Al.
Hey, Pastor High.
Disrespect.
Come through with a word. Come through with a word.
Highlight. And then we got D Great in the building. What's up, D Great? Hello.
Hey.
All right, Mika, on you. What does it mean to be lonely in a marriage?
Well, I kind of was going where Anwita went with it. You know how you see those couples and you see one of them all the time?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I like the presence of a man. I like for him to go with me. I don't want him to, I like to be where, it's not to, you're not trying to showboat, but you want to be, affectionate and, loving with your man when y'all are, when you have different events coming up or you have different things going on. But it's also, I'm thinking about it spiritually. I shouldn't have to pray by myself to hold this house down. I shouldn't have to be financially responsible.
She done froze it up. She done froze it up. Now you don't. Okay, now you
are.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying with like spiritually, you can be, I want somebody to help me hold it down spiritually. I want somebody to help me hold it down financially. So all those things affect how that goes to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need you to be present in every way. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So, I'll just go ahead and first of all, this is what David Wilkes got to say about you freezing up for a minute.
Yeah, not today, devil.
He busy.
He's behind me. Yeah.
What I want to say about that, is, men are very easy to train, right? As I thought about this topic, and I'm saying it from a man's perspective. See, here, let me put it like this. See, I have success on my mind, right? I want every relationship to be successful. So I'm going to tell you how to be successful, right? So there's a book out that's been out a long time called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Right.
And it compares men to dolphins, right? On how easy they are to train. In fact, one of my pastors used to talk about it all the time. He goes, if a man go out and cut the yard, if you go out while he cutting that yard with a pitcher of lemonade and a glass of ice, and you pour him a good glass and say, baby, you mowing the heck out this yard. This show looking good. He'll cut the whole block, right? So my point is that you reward good behavior. So if you want him to be with you, make him have a good time when he with you.
Come on now. Good time.
I'm gonna leave it like that. Who hadn't answered this question? Lily or Nicole? Which one of y'all hadn't answered?
Nicole.
All right, Nicole. What does
I hadn't. You got me right there with that lemonade. I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, what I'm gonna ask it again. That's what a good moderator. That's what a good moderator does. What does it mean to be lonely in a marriage?
I agree with what everybody else has been saying about the emotional connection part of it. And not only that, but as when I shared this on my Facebook, when you put out there what the topic was going to be, and you put some questions out there, and my cousin Gail Ann responded to.
Oh, she just your cousin?
Well, our cousin Gail Ann. She just responded to. She responded to the post, and one of the things that she was talking about in her comment was, the both of us ended up talking about was you got to be intentional in your relationship and how hard marriage is. Marriage really is hard. It can't just be one-sided. One person can't do it all. It has to be a team effort. And not only that, you got to make sure that you treat your spouse the way that you want him to treat you or her to treat you. You have to be intentional about doing those things, and you have to be intentional about spending time with your spouse. And even though, and we own our own moving business. I have my nonprofit, and my husband can go out of town for days at a time doing jobs and stuff. He's now being in this marriage. He's always been intentional about making time for us together, so that those days that he's working, then I don't feel like I'm by myself or I'm alone or I'm lonely or anything. So it's good to be able to do that. If you're a man that owns your own business or a woman who has your own business, sometimes take some days off, and he'll take 2 or 3 days off during the week or whatever, so that we can have that time together. But I'm just saying that's being intentional. And that's a good quality for any woman or man to have, is to be intentional with your spouse. So that way your spouse don't feel lonely, to have that emotional disconnect, because that can lead to other things happening if they're lonely in the marriage. So, and y'all already know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. Getting booted with somebody else.
Getting it from somewhere else. Boo.
We're going to develop us a segment, What Would John Say? I mean,
yeah.
All right. We just say as lonely as when he's watching TV in another room all the time, not sleeping with his spouse, pretending he accidentally fell asleep in another room every night.
Every night. See, that sounds like a testimony.
Golden said, y'all are looking good. Thank you, Miss Brooke.
Thank you, Golden.
Thank you, Golden.
And Joe is in the building. He's specifically spoke to everybody, including this chat room.
Hi, Joe.
That is very
What up, Joe?
Radio chat room like.
Oh my gosh.
What? Her what up? All right, let's get. Oh, Gail Field says hello. She's on.
Hey,
I'm
cousin.
sorry. She said she used your whole name, Gail Ann.
Uh,
Let's see.
We don't care.
And Rita said cheating in a marriage is going to leave somebody lonely, period.
Right.
And Mayhem said letting others jump up and down on you. Wow.
Uh-uh.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I meant, David.
See, you listen to
That's
the chicken way
fantastic.
too much, man.
That's
That's what I meant,
fantastic.
David.
Go on, come on in here and take John's place.
All right. So, Nikki, we're going to start with you on this one since we ended with you on the other one. Is it common to feel lonely in a marriage? Is it
I
common?
think it's more common than not.
Okay.
In some instances, because you think about it. What, like they were saying yesterday, I listened to it this morning. I'm getting ready to tell you, the Man Talk Monday.
Okay.
I listened to them on this morning.
Mhm.
You done made me lose my train of thought about the point that they made on there. But when I listened to it this morning, one of the guys, I can't remember which one it was, they were saying something, and I can't even, I done lost my train of thought for real. They were saying something to that. Oh gosh.
Google
So
it.
let me help you.
I gotta come back to it.
Let me help you. Maybe you can think of it based on the question again. Is it common to feel lonely when married? And your answer was you think it is more often than not.
Yes, I do think it is more often than none, but I still can't remember the point I was going to bring up about what they said.
I can't help you. I done did all I can do.
I can't remember what I was going to say. I just drew a blank on it completely.
Right.
But I do think it's more common than not. Seriously, I really do. Because sometimes there's a lot of, especially you think about like they were saying about on Man Talk Monday, now it came to me. A lot of old school people, when they got married back in the day, they got married to be committed, totally committed to one another.
Right.
And it wasn't about, like they say, like the new generation, how the first sign of a problem, they want to take off, pack their bag and leave. It's I want a divorce, whatever the case may be, or I need time. No, all that kind of stuff. But the old school marriages, they originally, when they got married, they stayed married. Their goal was to stay married for life. And so they didn't just quit at the sign of everything going bad. But I feel like some marriages, if one of the people have checked out, the husband or the wife, if one of them have checked out, then yeah. And a lot of times one of them will check out if they're not being intentional about spending time with one another, without communicating with each other, all those important things, praying together, like Mika said earlier, that it's good to pray together, because we pray together every night. We pray together with ourselves and with our children. We pray together. So that's important, to pray with your spouse and be on one accord with your spouse. So yeah, I think that it is more people than we really know that are unhappy in their marriage. So yeah, and they're lonely.
Okay. Amy, before I get to you, Mika, on is it common to feel lonely? Amy says, I agree. It's very important to check in with your spouse mentally and emotionally consistently. Right. And this may prevent the distance that can form in a marriage. You really have to be your husband's / wife's friend first.
Yep. Right.
100. Rita says most couples are too embarrassed to tell they're lonely. They paint this pretty picture. We'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah. Gail says, I think because you have so much going on with work and children, you don't realize you are until the kids are gone.
Right.
Something there. And we got Mama Sutter. It says, hi. Hey, Miss Sutter. How you doing?
Hey.
That's Trey, Mama. Okay, so Mika, it's on you. Is it common to feel lonely when married?
I think it's common because we make it common. We don't work at being married like we work at having a great career. We work at raising good kids. We work at, in our spiritual life. We work at church. But I don't think we work at marriage because we think it's supposed to just be easy. So it's common for us to be lonely because we don't put it.
You just freezing. You done froze again. So every time you make a good point, let me go back to Wilk's comment. Not today, Devil. Unfortunately,
Put
hey,
it back, so back up
he
there.
whooping her head over there, Wick. So I don't know what we're gonna do. But what I'll say, about, Nikki talked about it being common and whatnot is the communication aspect of it, right? So we had talked about people not communicating with each other with regard to how they are feeling and not being able to read their minds, right? Well, because communication or a lack thereof is so common, then as a result, it's going to make feeling lonely more common than we would hope to it or we would like to admit, right? Let's see, Wendy Crane Hunter, how you doing,
Hey,
man?
Wendy.
We appreciate you for showing up. She goes, any relationship, and we're going to give Mika an opportunity to fix us there. She says, any relationship that has some longevity to it has experienced seasons of loneliness because you tend to get comfortable over time.
Exactly.
The key to recognizing it and combat it quickly before the damage is done. That's a good point.
That's really good.
Yeah. All right. So the next aspect of this is, what are some signs of an unhappy or a lonely marriage? What are some signs that you may see that could indicate that you're lonely? Lily, kick that off.
I think it's just being withdrawn from one another. So noticing like a shift in the household, a shift in the way y'all communicate, cheating, that can play into that as well. Just signs of just being unhappy. And sometimes people look at withdrawing as a problem, like, what did I do? But sometimes you also have to realize that maybe your spouse is going through a period of depression. They have a lot on them. So when you are dealing with things like work, raising a family, things like that, that can become a lot. So sometimes, like we said before, women do shut down. And that's not always looked at as a bad thing. I think that you can always bounce back from it, but people have to realize that in marriage, you go through ebbs and flows, right? So it's not always going to be happy moments. It's not always going to be bad moments, but you have to know how to balance those out and communicate through those times that you have.
All right. Nikki, what are some signs of a loneliness in a marriage?
Well, I think that one of the signs is when that's a major sign to me is that we become defensive. When you're trying to communicate with one another, you become defensive, and then also your understanding is like zero. There's no understanding. So exactly, and then I think that sometimes we just purposely wanted to avoid the conversation. Like when your spouse comes to you and say, I want to, can we just sit down and just talk about this? No, it ain't nothing to talk about. We done talked about this over and over again. Well, that's being combative. That means you don't want to work it out. So, cause it takes two, it's not one person in a marriage, it's two people. So those are some things that you can, that you can recognize to know that, hey, something's not right here.
Right.
Lila, you're about to say something, man?
No, I said right.
Okay. Again, for our viewers, I'd like to remind you, please click the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're going to get a couple of more comments, one more questions, and then we're going to get to the Baby Queens segment. The streets is talking. Selena says, another good point, your spouse should be a resource that sustains you, like air, water, and food. Therefore, having frequent access to them, being proximate to them, allows your marriage to thrive.
Yep.
All right. And I can't tell if she is unfrozen or not. Don't look. Okay. You back?
I think so.
You back?
I think so.
So she thinks so.
She lagging.
Yeah, you lagging. We just gonna look at you for a while. We ain't gonna say nothing to you.
Yeah, don't say nothing to me.
Let's see. We got a couple more comments here. Weeda, of course, at one word, cheating is a sign.
That's our favorite one, ain't it?
Yeah.
Mama
She's in the
Sutherland.
next room.
Mama Sutherland. Oh, she says Pop Sutherland too. He's there.
Hey.
All right. What's
Hey,
going on?
Pop
Being Sutherland the second.
And Mama.
I agree. 5 C's are very important in a successful marriage. For a successful marriage: Christ, communication, consideration, compromise, and compassion.
That's good.
Right on, right on, right on. Rita says, I was only in the marriage because I hated my spouse. God, I'm gonna start reading some of these before I come on with it. Paul says financial.
Yes.
So, so I think it is, studies have shown that finances are a big part of marital issues, okay.
That leads to divorce.
And I'm going to tread these waters knowing it could be a problem. I have a question. Is cheating just a physical act?
No.
Emotional too, bro.
It depends on who you ask. Men and women are built differently.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. While you can talk, go on and talk.
While I can talk, let me talk. I'd rather somebody cheat on me physically versus emotionally. I'm just gonna keep
it a stronger connection.
Say that again.
It is.
I said I'd rather for someone to cheat on me physically than emotionally.
Say that again. I think that supports basically what I said, because
that's dangerous.
Men see that differently, right? For instance, the example I give every time I'm involved in a conversation like this about whether cheating is a physical or emotional act, or if it's just physical, et cetera, et cetera. There's a skit that took place one time, and this husband that cheated on his wife. And of course, he's saying it didn't mean anything or whatever, and they're arguing back and forth. And then she says, "Did you kiss her?" And when he said, "Yeah, he kissed her," that's when she like, "Oh God, no!"
That's very intimate.
It's like that's a whole nother level for her, right? So
the level of intimacy is changing.
Yeah, that is 100% right. And again, men and women see that differently, right?
Yeah.
Linda said, just to know it can be emotional.
Yeah.
David Wick said emotional relationship is just as dangerous.
Hey, yep,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Gail said emotional is worse.
Emotional is worse. Yes,
it's
Lord.
worse.
Paul said people not wanting to work to help keep the family afloat.
Yep.
Okay. She says, I don't agree with Mika. I prefer mentally. Can't get an STD. Wow.
Woo,
that's big.
Woo.
I hear you, but you get an STD on the brain too.
Right. A-Trap says facts, Wilkes, talking about emotional relationship is just as dangerous. All right. Okay. So now what we'll do is we will move into our segment.
The streets are talking.
What is they saying?
They talking, baby. Well, let me first shout out Mika for holding me down last week. She did an okay job.
Oh my God. Oh my
God. She did an okay job, but baby Queen is back. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wendy
so I have one topic that has been hot and heavy in these streets that sparked a lot of conversation. So I definitely want you guys to tell us in the comments what you think about this specific topic. So Omarion, which is part of B2K. So as we know, back in, I think last year, it was all this stuff that sparked off between him and Lil Fizz, because Lil Fizz decided to date and be in a relationship with the mother of his children. And they were in a band together. They were like brothers at one point. So the streets are really buzzing, saying that, everybody had one thing to say, whether who was wrong in the situation, whether it was Fizz, whether it was April, whether it was both. But this weekend, Omarion kicked off the Millennium Tour. It's been on like a pause because of COVID, but they're back on tour. And Lil Fizz apologized to Omarion on stage in public for doing some snake-ish basically to him. He said that he hurt his brother, and he did some effed up stuff to his brother, and he wanted to apologize in front of everybody to let him know that he apologizes for any hurt or malice that he caused towards his family. So some people are on both sides of this. Some people was like, oh, that's whack. It took you too long to apologize. But then other people are saying, but he apologized. So what do y'all think about this? Do you think that you would ever be able to get back to a good place with somebody that has hurt you that deeply by maybe sleeping with the mother of your children and having a relationship and doing all this stuff in the public eye, and you just kind of had to sit back and watch it unfold? Or do you think it looks like Omarion accepted the apology and was able to move on? They performed together afterwards. I don't know if that was just a front for the money or whatever it may be, but where would you stand with that?
Well, if he accepted the apology, that's good for him. That's good on his part. However, you can accept somebody's apology, you can forgive them, but you don't have to. You ain't gonna be my bro like that no more, because you already showed me who you are.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of people were saying too. Like, yes, the apology was nice, and I'll definitely say, okay, I accept your apology, but that doesn't mean you have to let that person back into your life like they were before.
Exactly.
So, yeah, what do y'all feel, Mika?
Mika?
I'm saying forgive, but forgiveness doesn't grant access. So forgive him, move on for you, not for him, not for that girl that he slept with. Move on. And I did question, why did you wait till we got on stage? Bro, you could have did this long time ago. Like, is this a show? Is it real?
But I think because they've stopped dating and it's taken a moment for everything to die down, and he embarrassed him publicly. Like, it was out on Front Street the way he did him. So I felt like he knew that was going to be a platform where he could really say in front of everybody. Or he maybe wanted that check. Maybe he wanted to tour with him again. I don't know what
I think it's a check, Alicia. Money makes it talk.
It might be that check.
Well, it could have been a situation where he figured, I messed up publicly, I'm going to apologize publicly.
Right.
And as far as the timing and how long it took and all that other kind of stuff, we do too much of that. Well, why did it take you so long, instead of concentrating on the fact that they apologize? Again, I've said this in previous episodes here and on other shows, our minds are rigged to self-justify. Meaning when we do something, when we in the middle of something, we can all of a sudden understand why it all went down that way, why it was so easy to misstep. But when somebody else, we can't understand it, so I don't have a huge problem with him apologizing. Again, as Mika says, when you forgive, you don't necessarily mean that you're going to give him access again.
Yeah.
But like Justin said, Chris Brown told y'all, these hoes ain't loyal.
These hoes ain't loyal.
Tia says, he literally said that he wasn't even cool like that when he was sleeping with her, and now he's his brother again. You would have to stay far away from me after that. So apparently,
that's what I said. No, we can't be bros no more.
Yeah, he definitely said that when he was sleeping with her, like him and Omarion weren't even cool, so it shouldn't even really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You was cool before that, though.
Yeah.
Selena says that bridge is burned. Not sure I would attempt to cross it again without fear of being in danger.
Right.
Paul says what a lot of older people are saying. What a mess.
What a mess.
What a mess. That sounds like an mess.
That's right. Gail says forgiveness is for you, not the other person. 100. Amy says, I think it was all for publicity, the whole situation.
Quite
Same.
Paul says, I don't know these folks.
We don't need a Paul.
That's because you old.
Golden says, old folks used to say, once someone show you who they are the first time, that's what it is. Once someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yep.
Am I getting any funds? Who cares? Wow. Gail says, as my brother would say, I forgive you, but I'm treating you now from a long handle spoon.
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And let's say Craig says, that's not being loyal to your brother. If you're my bro, you don't get with kid's mother. As Gates says, to lose somebody that's not dead, but you're dead to me. I can forgive you, but I can't forget what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
All right. And that does it for another edition of The Streets Are Talking.
Yeah.
So why are you standing outside your car like you're on the news?
Hi, I'm live at NBC5.
Hi, I'm live coming from you from the restaurant here in Forney, Texas.
Restaurant.
Restaurant.
All right. While your connection is good, we're gonna go to you right now.
Okay.
So somebody has mentioned the word thrive, and I had that note down here as well. That word on my notes here as well, right? And it says, "Can you thrive in a lonely marriage?"
No, I don't think you. I mean, thrive by yourself in a marriage, a union. So shouldn't it take two people to thrive and be successful in a marriage? So I don't think you can thrive. You can thrive in loneliness in a marriage, but I don't think you can be successful if you're trying to thrive or do this thing by yourself.
That's all you got to say?
Yeah, that's all.
Period.
Thrive.
Nico, can you thrive in a lonely marriage?
When I looked at that, I was about the thriving part of it. I wasn't necessarily thinking about it being us together as a unit, being able to thrive in it, but us as individuals. Mm-hmm. If one or the other could thrive,
okay,
with in a lonely marriage, and
so
I think
why be married?
So
why be married?
But what I'm saying is, us as individuals during the trial, the temporary trial that the marriage is going through, can either one of us, myself or my husband, could either one of us thrive, still continue to thrive. And I think that you can thrive in it through prayer for yourself, to get just to have your own peace of mind. You can also do self-care. There's things that you can do for yourself as an individual through the rough patches, is what I'm saying, of that situation.
And one of the things that we just cannot ignore is the fact that people are getting married for different reasons.
Right.
Just today overall in general than they used to before. That is one of the reasons why the commitment issues are different today than they were before.
Yeah.
So before, it was a whole different reason why we got married. And it wasn't that Disney fairy tale as to why we was getting married, right? So we didn't need the Disney fairy tale to stay married.
Right.
Very true.
That's why you got married, then you're gonna need that to stay married. And that ain't gonna always be the case, right?
Yeah.
A couple of comments here. Let's see. Okay, there you go. Amy says you can thrive maybe as an individual, but not together. And just saying that, right? Because Nikki brought up a good point with that. She goes, I think you can thrive as an individual. Well, so often people talk about not losing your individuality within your marriage, right? Or in a relationship, right? So you have to consider some things as an individual, right?
Yep.
And so I think the answer to the question is that yes, you can have some individual success, or you can thrive as an individual within a marriage. You may not be able to reach your full potential if you're lonely within a marriage, right? But you can have a level of success.
Yeah.
Lily, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I just kind of agree with what Nikki said. I feel like you can thrive individually in different areas. You definitely can. But and I like what you said at that last part. That doesn't mean you're going to reach your full potential. So I think that's what I really agree with, and that's where I stand with that.
Right. And somebody wanted to make an announcement, like Jesus part of the church announcement, like
Sister Lynn.
Well, welcome home.
I'm just getting home from work. Thank you.
Welcome home. Come on in here and sit down.
We still appreciate
welcome home.
Did you stop and get something to eat? Why? I mean, is this the normal time? Is this late? I mean, how are we supposed to receive this information?
Maybe she had a date.
Just come on in here. Come on in this house and sit down.
And she then follows up to say she come in typing, but she ain't even took her hat off yet. See that hat in the picture? She ain't even took that off yet. It's so many folks married and divorced in their homes, but aren't legally divorced. Ooh,
That's good,
yes.
That's good.
That's a topic within itself.
That's right.
Divorced and married.
Yeah.
Hey.
Wow.
Yep.
You can
Divorce.
Golden, she says you can thrive, but you got married to thrive together.
Right. That's good, though.
And Rita says, yes, you can thrive. Ask Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. Right. Golden Brooks says LOL. Okay, so now I'm going to start with Lily. I'm going to start with you on this question. How do you tell your partner that you're lonely?
I think it's not about saying that I'm lonely, but talk about what has you feeling lonely. It's not necessarily coming and saying, "Hey, I'm lonely." Like I think
Hey there, lonely girl.
I think that it's something that you just discuss. Like different things have put you in a place of feeling lonely. So talking about those different things, whether it's finances, whether it's one of those spiritual growth moments that you may be going through, whether it's just growth, period. If you make those things known, you are talking about the things that have led to the loneliness, and that's addressing it. And hopefully y'all can get through that.
But why not come say, hey, I'm feeling lonely? What's wrong with that? Is that a pride thing to say? Is I can't say I'm lonely? You're going to feel like a chump that you come in there and say, I'm
not saying that, but I feel like if I'm going in there, I'm not going to say, hey, I'm lonely. Because the next question is going to be like, why you feel lonely? So it's just like,
the question.
But this is the thing, though. This is what's making me feel lonely. So I would just rather say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. It's put me in a lonely place or a dark place within this marriage or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. I
personally
say, hey, I'm lonely. Let's talk about it.
Because it is the end result, right? So to me, it is illustrating the entirety of what you're feeling, by saying that, right? So I think you just say it. Say, I feel lonely, and these are the things that are contributing to that. Or sometimes, guess what? That's all you know is you feel lonely, and you don't even know why you feel lonely, right? And so sometimes people just may not say it when that is the beauty of communication, right? And to me, that's part of the foundation you set in the relationship to say, hey, we're going to be able to talk about any and everything. There's no judgment here, et cetera, et cetera. So you can come freely say, hey, I'm feeling a little lonely right now. I don't know if it's because this day 21. I don't know if it's because, I don't know why, but I'm feeling this way. And then you talk through it. Mika, what say you? And hold on, finally, I got somebody that agree with me. Golden says, yes, Doc, I agree. Just say.
I guess it's just one of those things on preference. I don't come out and say I'm lonely. I may say something like, I feel like stuff has been off, or I feel like there's a disconnect, because that's genuinely how I feel. But it's not, I'm not just saying, hey, I'm lonely.
But do you feel lonely?
I don't know if it's necessarily feeling lonely. I'm just expressing it like this is a disconnect for me.
Okay.
And maybe it is lonely, but it's just not how I express that. I don't know. I've never just came out and said, hey, I'm lonely. Like,
do you stand with your hands in your pockets when you say it?
No. It's usually not very nice when I'm having the conversation.
It's not what?
Very nice when I'm having the conversation.
Come on, we gotta fix that. It ain't gotta be. See that, that's
because it just may be a point of frustration, but maybe I'm coming to you frustrated as my husband to talk me through that.
Right. Yeah. And that's good. That's good honesty there too, right? And so sometimes, like I've talked to people about this, is that sometimes you have a difficult conversation, but it doesn't have to be contentious, right? We can have it. It's like, hey, I'm feeling frustrated, but I don't want that to come across to you right now. So if I get there, just excuse me for a second, but
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. Whatever, right?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, Mika, I want you to talk about this. How do you tell your partner you're lonely? But before Andrea has asked my question, she says, T, no, I didn't stop to get anything to eat because I'm not eating after 6. You're not the only person that can get 5. Hey, my beautiful queens, I love you.
Hey, Lynn.
It's on my nerves.
Hey.
Paul says, send a text. They will hear you then.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Not a text.
It says, remember the movie The War of the Roses starting Michael Douglas
yeah.
and Kathleen Turner? I don't.
I don't.
You don't remember that?
I guess you got to be over a certain age to remember that.
It was
remember right away.
It was a movie where they were married, but I think they stayed in different.
Was
I think
it in
one of them
black
had
and
the
white?
upstairs and one had the
Oh
other part of
no.
the house and all
Was it in
that.
black and white?
No, it wasn't black and white.
Let's see. Arlene says, please, you can say yes, babe. I feel lonely at the moment, then explain. Okay. Mika, how do you tell your partner you're lonely?
I'm with Tag on this one. I think we overcomplicate things. Walk in the room, say, hey, I'm feeling lonely. And sometimes you know why, and sometimes you don't. Say, hey, I'm feeling lonely because, and can we do, like Alicia said, walk in there with solutions. I feel lonely. Can we start having date night? I feel lonely. Can we start spending more time together? I feel lonely. Can we pray? But sometimes you just say, hey, I'm lonely and I don't know why. So I think we overcomplicate things with saying, with not saying it. Say it, and then y'all both find a way to, solve that problem together, because your spouse may not know that they just may not know that that's the way you feeling, because they're moving about their day and they don't realize it. So I think you go in there and you say it.
Are y'all familiar with what's called the KISS method? Have y'all heard about that before? KISS?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Right. But I'm a little bit more politically correct than that. And I say, keep it simple, sweetheart. Right. So
Sweetheart.
The quick kiss method. So just keep it simple. Right. Let's see. Arlene says she going to tell Paul in a minute that she feeling like. Well, he's on here right now, Arlene. So if you need to tell him while we all on here, you can put it in the chat room.
And they're in the same house.
Tell him.
Just like he said, send a text. I bet he'll hear it then.
Yeah,
Please record it.
All right, Nikki, how do you tell your spouse that you're lonely?
I agree with you and Mika both. I think you just have to go, you just have to tell them, because I know used to, I would kind of like, beat around the bush, to try to tell how I feel. But as I've grown more in my marriage, I'm able to now just go and say, do you have a minute? Can we sit down? Can we talk? About whatever it is that's bothering me. So if it is a situation like that, if he's been working too much, or whatever the case may be, or I feel like I'm doing too much on my own without him being there when, or whatever, out of town, or whatever the case may be, then I can sit there and say, you know what, I'm lonely, something's bothering me, but I can't quite put my finger on it. But I know that I just don't feel an emotional disconnect. Something is wrong here. And a lot of the times he's very good about being able to walk me through it. Well, why do you think you feel this way? Or it's okay, I got you, whatever, or we will pray together about it. And so, so sometimes things happen, and it may, like you said earlier, it affect one of the it may affect me, but he may not see it. I may be going through just something personally. Right. And it has nothing to do with our marriage, but I still feel some type of way that I'm by myself. Okay. I feel like I'm in this by myself.
Cool. Arlene says you better know how to talk. Andrea says the same thing to get your baby is gonna take the same thing to keep me. Arlene says can't feel lonely with Paul. That's
my gosh.
Okay.
Y'all sitting there studying. Y'all
he's
studying
such a nuisance.
He needs somebody to help him study the eye charts together. So
he's such a nuisance.
Okay. So we got about 6 minutes left, and I'm going to ask one last question, and we'll go around the horn with that. We're going to start with Nikki, and then we'll go back and do our final thoughts. Let's see, before we get there, I will walk in the room looking all fly, smelling all good. When he asks me where I'm going to say to get some attention.
Oh, yikes.
That'll get him.
That's savage.
All right now.
Let me get back to Justin's comment earlier. He says, I need to read the comments before showing them, because Aunt Rita is going hard tonight.
Yes, she is.
And then she replies by saying, thanks, Justin. All right. So one of our last questions is, and who did I say I was starting with? Nikki?
Tanya.
Okay. Can sex fix loneliness?
Not in this. I don't think that women and men think differently. I think with that question, because myself personally, I'd rather have that emotional connection with my husband instead of that. I'm not saying that the physical aspect of it is not important to both parties. However, sometimes when you're feeling lonely like that, that's not the main thing that's on my mind. I want to get through figuring out what the problem is, what the issue is. So to me, I don't think it fixes everything.
All right. So now I'm going to jump in. And again, what I like about this, first of all, I'm going to get Derek's comment. This was Taweeta's comment about she going to walk into the room smelling good. He goes, oh, you want to fight. So with that, Nikki, it depends on who it is, right? So one of the things that happened a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine was talking to a friend of theirs, and they were talking to her about marital issues and whatnot. And she goes, well, what's his love language? Because she was talking about problems with her husband. She goes, what's his love language? And she goes, what? Girl, I don't know. Well, what's his love language? How do you communicate that you love him and you're thinking about him and stuff? She goes, well, I buy him stuff all the time, and I always use words, I always tell him how good he is. She goes, okay, that's gifts and words of affirmation, but are those his love languages? And she goes, I don't know. She goes, well, I'm gonna need you to look that up, because you could be talking in your natural love language that you communicate with, but it may not be the one that he naturally receives. Right. So if you got physical touch, that's really good, his love language, right?
Yep.
Then maybe, as John Yogi would say, coming off the top rope on that thing might be the thing you need to do, right? To make him, because if I'm a man who physical touch is my love language, that may be the way you get me out of loneliness. So you're not going to know that if you don't know what his love language is, right?
Sometimes you need
I know his love language, but you asked me about me.
Sometimes you need that church.
It's not just about you. It's in general, girl. Selena says, study your spouse. That's right. All right. Mika, can sex fix loneliness?
No, I don't. I know it can't, because even after you have sex with whoever, you're going to go back to that loneliness feeling because you haven't solved or gotten to the root of that problem. So sex is not a fixer, it's a filler. I think you're just filling your time, filling your space with sex, but you're not really fixing the problem. I know people who have sex and lonely that's while having sex. You're just doing it.
What?
I'll talk to y'all about that off camera.
Whoa. I need to hear that.
I ain't gonna tell you.
I'm gonna give you the same answer I gave. If that individual's love language is physical touch and they haven't been getting any physical touch, it can fix, right? It can fix if that is the problem.
That's the problem.
That's what's broken.
I think that's probably gonna be more of a man side of it.
The answer is, well, no. Some people's love language is male and female.
Yeah, I know that. I understand that, but I'm just saying. But I think a man would probably be more apt to say the physical versus
trust
the
me
emotional.
when I say it has been said that I'm gonna tell you like this. I just think we're underestimating the power of sex and coming off that top rope. It can fix some stuff. Okay, and one thing it can do is it can reopen the lines of communication as well. There's a reason why pillow talk is a thing.
Oh, we do enough of that. We ain't gotta. We're sorry.
Okay, so a couple of good comments here, and now we're gonna go to Lily because we haven't got her answer. She goes, sex can be a false positive. It can make you feel things are back on track, but communication has to follow, and that's exactly what I said. It's pillow talk. Yeah. Akia says sex is a temporary fix. Andrea says sex satisfies the moment.
For the moment, exactly.
It's different from us.
And Mayhem says depends on how freaky you are. Sure, don't at me.
All right, man. All right, David.
Justin just says, Arlene says all of this can be worked out through by learning your spouse. Most people don't know the little things. Like, for instance, Paul shouldn't eat too much red meat, right, Arlene? We learned that at the Broken Bow Cabin on the family vacation, right? That red meat.
Let's move on.
That's right.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we're almost out of time.
Miss Sutter said, communicate first, get resolution, then make love. Sex, in my opinion, is not a marital term. Okay. Weta says if the sex is not good, then no. God, dog, it will not definitely not.
That's all right, Auntie.
Arlene just says LOL. Okay.
Excuse
All
me.
right. So, Lily, on you, can sex fix loneliness?
Yes, it can, but I feel like it's temporary fix. So I think it's one of those things where it's a distraction from the real problem sometimes. Sometimes we offer up sex like, oh, that's gonna make it it's gonna make it better.
My baby gonna be
back
good.
to where, oh, my baby gonna love me after this.
No.
And you turn over the next morning, that problem's still right there in front of you. So
and you mad.
Yeah, and and now you're real mad.
Yeah.
But I think that it's definitely
had a V8.
now I think it's something that you can definitely. It can. One of the things that I'm like, I would rather communicate, get what I need off the table, and then that in turn will make the sex so much better.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to say about that, right? Because a lot of people are saying temporary, right? Well, I'm going to use this analogy. You got a dead battery in the car. Car won't start. Car won't run. You jump it off. Well, you jump it off to get it rolling again. Sometimes you don't even need to replace that battery. You just needed to get it rolling again and it'll charge itself. And with that, I'm going to drop the microphone and go to some comments.
So you are you saying sex is the recharge?
It can be.
Okay.
That's what he's saying.
It can be. So it don't have to be temporary. And again,
let me try
and one of the things we got to say, right, is that there are no absolutes to this, right? And no one size fits all solutions.
Very true.
Each case is its own situation, but it is possible. And I done jumped some cars off. Andrea said, my final thought is keep the spice.
Look how Mika
Mika drunk.
Yeah.
Your eyes like you were drunk.
Ellie says, love you guys, bedtime. Yeah, they past your bedtime. All right. So final thoughts. We're gonna start with Nicole.
I just say in any marriage, just always, like Mama would always tell us, keep the lines of communication open with your spouse. Don't dismiss anything that they tell you. If you don't, just blow it off and just say, you don't care, you just think about yourself. In marriage, there you have to be able to sit down and be able to tell your spouse how you're feeling. You need to be able to not be selfish, because sometimes we tend to be selfish in our relationships, and it's not always about us. Sometimes we have to compromise. You can't be a spoiled brat in a relationship. You got to compromise and be intentional. Be intentional about the things that you do for your spouse. Be intentional. Make sure that you're doing the things that they require, what they need for you to do. Because like Ted said earlier, he did. I know that everybody has love languages, but whatever those things are, just do that. Do what it is that you can, and to please your spouse, and to make sure that you guys are on one accord, whether that's praying together, whether that's going to church together, whether that's just sitting down and having the hard conversations. A lot of conversations in marriage are really hard, and we're not going to always agree on everything, but let's just make sure that we are being intentional and making sure that we take people's feelings in consideration.
Mika?
If one more "and" would have came out of Nikki's mouth, I was gonna
well, girl, I had to put your earplugs in.
And you should have just said "and."
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, just real simple. Communicate expectations, or it will lead to disappointment. So you don't have to be lonely in marriage. I think it's something that we bring upon ourselves if we don't communicate. So communication is key. Christ is key. Like they said, the 5 C's earlier. And I think if we hold those 5 C's to our heart, I think our marriage will be successful.
All
right, Papa Sutterth.
Baby Queen, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think that like we discussed, it's normal to have those ebbs and flow in marriage, but it's up to you to keep the lines of communication open. You should always be able to go to your spouse and tell them what's bothering you, what's kind of put you in that lonely place, so that you can both work as a team to resolve that. But I think it's also important that we often forget, in order to keep that person, you have to do everything you were doing when you were seeking to be married.
Right.
So continue to keep that up, whether it's dating, going out on dates, doing little things for each other, whatever the case may be. You have to keep that same energy, and you have to put that same energy into your marriage, or it will be periods of loneliness, and you will kind of be disappointed at different levels in your marriage.
Right on. And before I give my final thoughts, Lynn says, just like you nourish anything else, make sure you nourish your
very true
marriage.
True.
For me, my final thoughts are, we wrestled. You know what, Selena, if you're still listening, I need you to develop me some before my final thoughts music, just like you play for Derek. You play some real cute music and stuff before he give it, and he looks all to the camera all like this. So I need you to give me some music too. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? And for us, we are spiritual people, right? And so we got to recognize the spirit in these situations, right? So a couple of people have mentioned intent today, right? So we have to be intentional, deliberate, purposeful on purpose, right? So all of those things have to be taken into consideration, but more importantly, we got to separate the spirit from the flesh. Who are you dealing with? Are you dealing with your spouse, or are you dealing with the enemy? You got to separate the two, as far as I'm concerned. And with that being said, we appreciate you for tuning in to another episode of Queen 3 and King. This week on Thursday, 2 days from today at 7:30 p.m., I believe it's 7:30, we are kicking off our Queen 3 and King Spotlight Series.
I thought it was 7.
It's 7 on Thursday.
I think it
was
7:30.
Stay tuned. But we are kicking off our Queen 3 and King Spotlight Series, to where one of us, it won't be all of us, it'll be one of us highlighting and spotlighting an individual that we find interesting, inspiring, controversial, whatever the case may be. Our first installment will include Pastor Derek Smith, who is also Man Talk Mondays and of the Overcomers Empowerment Ministries. So we will be talking to him Thursday. I look forward to that conversation. It should be fantastic. So tune in. We need your support, just like all BS3 podcasts. Thank you so much for your support, and we will see you Thursday.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Are we smiling, or what are we doing?
The Queen Bee has arrived.
You know. Show out then. So I'm gonna start with both of y'all's hands right here.
Look for my thumb.
Look for your thumb.
Like if you can see my thumb on this mic.